Hello everyone, this is Paris. Welcome to Budgetholics. In today's video, we're going to go over a short market overview based on Biden's inauguration on Wednesday. We will go over certain policies such as taxation, climate change, and healthcare, of course including the new stimulus bill. The reason I included Bernie Sanders in the thumbnail is because being the chair of the Senate Budget Committee is one of the most important jobs in the government, as he will be the one responsible allocating where money goes to. For those of you who are panicking that Sanders will bring about a Stalinist change, don't worry, relax. And for those of you who think that Bernie will completely transform the American political landscape, I suggest you be more cautious. Without further ado, let's jump into the overview. One of the tools that Sanders can use as a budget chair is reconciliation. This allows the Senate to pass legislation based on a majority vote, meaning 51 votes, instead of needing 60 votes in favor of a new bill. Sanders argues that the Trump tax cut, as well as the repeal of the Affordable Care Act, were both due to reconciliation. He will in turn try to pass legislation to battle income inequality. In his view, the wealth gap is a huge problem in the United States. Just a moment, I'm new at this. It seems like Ray Dalio said this, not Sanders. I'm reading the article right now, which you can find down in the comments. And it seems like Ray Dalio is in favor of job programs to increase productivity. The big question is, how will Sanders and the Biden presidency address this wealth gap and this income inequality? And the first item on the agenda is taxes. When it comes to taxes, there are three main taxing plans. The first option is a flat income tax, meaning that everyone is taxed at a certain percentage of their income, for example 20%. The second option is a progressive tax system, meaning that if your income increases, the percentage of that income that you'll pay in taxes increases. Some people believe that this system is more socially just, but others believe that this will hinder innovation. Thirdly, you have a regressive tax income system, meaning that after a certain income threshold, you start paying less in taxes. And the thought process behind it is that if you're making that much, you must have created a lot of jobs. Thus, we will give you certain tax benefits in order to compensate you for creating those jobs. This is viewed as a more business-friendly system. The first thing when it comes to taxation is smashing the like button. If you smash the like button and you also hit the subscriber button and the notification bell, tax refunds are sure to follow. Sanders has expressly stated that the wealthy are undertaxed relative to the population. I messed up again. This was a Warren Buffett quote.
You're now talking about some new taxation plans that are being recommended in Congress or by specific senators or congressmen that are similar to some of those policies that we've seen in the states. I mean, if you just run through it, Elizabeth Warren with her wealth tax on anybody over $50 million, AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, with her plan to tax anything above $10 million at 70% rate, Bernie Sanders with his estate tax going up to 77%. If those policies are enacted on a national basis, do you see that same sort of trading off where people would potentially leave the United States? What do you think about these plans?
Oh, well, that's an interesting question. I would say this. If tomorrow everybody in the world had a chance to make a one-time change in where they lived, 2 billion families all over the world, the only time they're going to get the chance to make the change. But they will get transported free to any country they want to go, their family, and have citizenship. What do you think is going to happen tomorrow?
A lot of people coming to the United States.
A lot of people are going to come to the United States. Very few people are going to leave. North Korea might have a small decrease in population. I mean, the point is, this is an incredible country. And it's true that right now we're raising $3.3 trillion and spending probably $4.3. We're going to have a deficit of about $1 trillion in a very good year in the cycle. I mean, a year of prosperity. And that's 5% of GDP, and that's probably more than you can actually take a 2 to 3% deficit and not have the ratio of debt to GDP grow. But 5 in prosperous years, we're out of whack on that. So you can cut spending, you can raise taxes, but I would say that the wealthy are definitely undertaxed relative to the general population.
But your answer to that was almost a dodge of the question. I mean, if these policies drive out the wealthy people, sure, if you got your choice of where to go, everybody would want to come to the United States. But would the wealthy people do that if we changed our tax structure?
Well, I think most of the people that have, the rich people, Mark Rich being one of them, I mean, they leave because they, in his case, I mean, he's leaving before the feds pick him up. I don't think, if you offered most of the rich people, if they were sane anyway, and you said, if you stay, we're going to take half your net worth, and if you leave, you can take it all with you, and you're 88 years old like me, am I going to leave the United States? I could move. South Dakota has no state income tax. Wyoming has no state income. So we've got two states that border Nebraska. Nebraska has a 7 and a fraction % state income tax. If Iowa, which is right across the river, had no income tax, I wouldn't move. I mean, now I think people want to come here. I think if you made that offer I made, the United States, there'd be more people come to the United States than any place else, and they would come if the deficit was 1 trillion or 1.2 trillion. I mean, this is the land of opportunity.
But he has said that when the tax cut passed, senators and congressmen were among the first beneficiaries. This was Warren Buffett again.
If the bill that passed the House with 217 votes had been in effect this year, I would have saved, I can give you the exact figure, I would have saved $679,999, or over 17% of my tax bill. There's nothing ambiguous about that. I will be given a 17% tax cut. And the people it's directed at are couples with $250,000 or more of income. You could entitle this, Relief for the Rich Act or something, because I've got friends where it would have saved them as much as, it gets into the 10 million and up figure. But I might point out, might be an interesting question, I think members of the Senate and House get $174,000 a year, but most of them have, if you look at the disclosures, they have substantial other incomes. If they get to higher than $250,000 as a married couple or $200,000 as a single person, they have given themselves a big, big tax cut if they voted for this.
Argues that extra money for the ultra-rich provides no additional utility to them. In other words, there aren't more stuff they can buy, and he thus argues that in order for other people's tax rate to go down, their tax rate must need to go up. A proposal of Buffett is having a minimum tax for people that make more than $10 million a year. And this brings us to two important observations. Firstly, the Warren Buffett Index. The Warren Buffett Index measures how the stock market is performing with relation to the real economy, measured in terms of GDP. And right now, the Warren Buffett Index is at an all-time high. The index currently shows that the value of the total US stock market is more than double the GDP of the United States. Every time the index was at levels of such height, it was indicative of a stock market bubble, such as the dot-com bubble, which soon burst. Buffett stresses that while the economy is doing well, not all Americans are doing well. The US has a GDP per capita of $58,000 per year. This means that if you divide the GDP amongst all Americans, it will amount to $58 per year of income in average. This is due to unbelievable prosperity for the rich, meaning that the people at the top of the income bracket having much more than they could possibly ever use, and people at the bottom not having enough to cover their needs. In a Financial Times article, Ray Dalio has also stressed the importance of income inequality. He believes that this is a matter that should be addressed immediately, or else we might face a violent revolution. Secondly, we have climate change. The Trump administration has been dubbed by many as science deniers. This is due to the fact that they removed some pages referring to climate change from some official government web pages, as well as due to the fact that they pulled out of the Paris Climate Accord. In the words of Warren Buffett referring to oil production, it's going down because it doesn't pay to drill. In 2020, we saw the price of oil dropping to minus $35 per barrel. Companies were essentially paying others to store their oil, as it had no real value. Nowadays, alternative energy sources are deemed to be much more profitable, with the added benefit of not contributing to pollution. In fact, many companies have pledged that they'll be carbon neutral by a certain year. The Biden presidency seems to have an agenda aimed at more sustainable energy production. And this policy relating to the stock market translates into green-focused companies doing better than traditional oil giants. Moving on to healthcare, we know that Sanders and Biden have two different agendas. Sanders was in favor of a Medicare for All program, whereas Biden has expressly stated that he would veto it. However, there are some policies that both of them can agree on. For example, insurance for people with pre-existing conditions, spending on vaccine and vaccine distribution, as well as testing and contact tracing. Which brings us to the $1.9 trillion Biden stimulus bill. In the words of Sven Carlin, my fellow American investors and citizens, welcome to Europe. The stimulus bill, or the Biden relief plan, is said to include paid leave, unemployment insurance, minimum wage, childcare, and rent assistance. We should all remember that a stimulus bill comes from printing money, and this will surely result to inflation. Interest rates are what banks use to limit inflation, and they're already low, at zero. And in terms of numbers, another $1,400 added to the $600 that passed, along with extra support for states and cities to help battle COVID. Healthcare has been a very challenging problem for many US governments. Amazon, Berkshire Hathaway, and JP Morgan tried to tackle this problem through the Heaven Healthcare joint venture, but they threw in the towel, and Heaven Healthcare will be disbanded by February 2021. One of the problems with healthcare is that the free market does not seem to be working. The US is paying double the price for drugs than any other country in the world. Also, despite the fact that the US has a $58,000 GDP per capita, the number of people with no access to healthcare services has increased over the past 5 years. Many people believe that healthcare is by nature a loss-making industry, which is a fact that most pharmaceutical companies will never accept. I believe that if Biden and Sanders try to address this fact, pharmaceutical stocks will go down. However, this is not necessarily a net negative effect for the whole of society, or a net negative effect for value investors over the next 5, 10, or 20 years. In conclusion, the new Biden presidency seems that it will run a budget deficit. And this is translated to government spending increasing, accompanied by an increased money supply, hence more inflation. This typically scares investors. But if this money is put to work productively, we can surely see a positive return on investment for the coming years. This money could go to infrastructure, healthcare, education, and job creation. And let me know what are your thoughts on the policy agenda in the US and how this will affect the economy regionally as well as the global economic landscape. If you like this video, please hit the like and subscribe button and also share it with anyone you think might find it interesting. Until we meet again, don't stop investing.